I'm going to bring straight onto the screen now David from Zinguist, because we've kept him waiting a little bit too long. David, good morning to you. Hola, bon dia, alegría.
Hello, sir. How are you today?
Very well. How's it going? Where are you? Where do we find you? In what part of the world?
I'm in Berlin. So a sort of similar thing with people moving to Berlin first, and then they started moving to Portugal. It seems to be a bit of a trend.
Yes. Yeah. Well, a great place to be. Lots of fun to be had in Berlin, I believe.
Yeah, I don't see much of it. I work hard, so I actually
Yes.
don't.
Yeah,
I
fair
go
enough.
lake swimming with my girlfriend. That's about it. As
Is
exciting
it? So you could be anywhere, in fact.
No, there are beautiful lakes around Berlin.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
No, what I mean is, if you're just sat in front of your laptop, you could be anywhere in the world, couldn't you? An apartment is an apartment.
Do you want me to show you my view?
Yeah, go on.
All right, here we go.
You deserve a good view with all this.
That is the suitably rainy Winterfeldstraße.
The Winterfeldstraße of Berlin. Thank you. It's nice to see a view like that. Brilliant. And this is what you have been working hard on, so to speak. The world's fastest way to learn a language. Now, when I saw you on LinkedIn, I thought we've got to get David on because people complain about how difficult it is to learn Portuguese. Zinguist, tell us all about it. And is it really the fastest way to learn a language, David?
As far as we can research, I went to Israel and tried to learn Hebrew using this system called Ulpan, which is this sort of very fast and intensive, immersive classroom system. And as far as I can research, that's the second fastest way to learn a language. Other than there are
nicely done.
So yeah, we think so. And it's a very different way to learn a language. There's no grammar. Everyone's pleased to know, but there is accuracy. Yes. Yes.
Sorry, I interrupted you with my interjection of delight there. There's no grammar, but there's what?
Interruptions, like I've just done now as well. The interruptions is what it's all about. We like things to be interactive as much as possible. And that's at the heart of the philosophy, is that, okay, maybe can I tell you a little story that kind of...
Please do. I'd love to. We want to know about this and how to get involved. If it's going to help us learn Portuguese, yes, let's do it.
I'm afraid I'm going to take you around the houses a bit. So I tried to learn Finnish very fast. I tried to learn it in 4 weeks.
Yes.
And the first, I was sort of betting some friends who thought I was nuts. One of them said I couldn't learn a Californian accent in 4 weeks. So the first 3 days I was stuck in this sort of flat in the corner of Helsinki, trying to read books and go through a grammar book and all of this kind of stuff. I got a bit down about the prospects of learning it, and I sort of called my friend up and said, I think you're probably going to win this bet.
Right.
But I went out and encountered this lovely elderly lady at the train station on the way into Helsinki. And I felt I could say, she said hello to me and I understood what she said. So I said hello back, and she understood me as well. Well, that was nice. And so she said, so how are you? She said to me. And so I said, oh, yeah, I'm okay. How are you? And that was enough for me to be, oh my goodness, this is really happening. This is really special. Just that little connection. And so I think if you build on those connections, you build on those interactions, and you interrupt people, then that's the right way to learn languages.
Yes, and that's a stage that I recognize, and I think other people will do here as well, of the being able to say hello, and then maybe how are you, and then we call it Portu panic here, the terrible moment where you'd like to interrupt somebody, but you don't know what to say for the next bit. So how do you help people with that?
Okay, so I'm gonna make it sound more simple than it is for a minute, but you really only need to do 2 things to learn a language extremely fast, and that is listen to fast speed Portuguese as if you were a child learning Portuguese.
Yeah.
Number 1. Number 2, make use of the fact that you're an adult and you sort of know how to educate yourself. Plus the way that the Greeks invented how to memorize things. Zinguist does have a special couple of extra dimensions here, but basically you can just use the Greek memory techniques, and you can memorize phrases. So if you memorize phrases and you listen to full speed language, you cover your ability to intuit how to manipulate those phrases beyond their boundaries, whilst having the confidence that you know the most crucial phrases to you, and they're at the center of your knowledge. So you're never stuck, and you never get you won't get that what do you call it? Sorry,
Porcupanic.
Porcupanic.
Because people, I don't know if you would agree, yeah, and you must hear a lot of excuses as to why people can't learn this language or that language, but Portuguese people do seem to speak very quickly, and it's difficult to know what they've just said sometimes, and that adds to the Porcupanic. So not knowing what they've said and not knowing what to say next. But hold on a minute, the Greek way of memorizing things. What is this you speak of?
Haha, yeah. Well, I think if you've watched a few Sherlock Holmes episodes, you might sort of recognize it a little bit. It's
Right.
it's the famous memory palace, or another way to put it, learning through associations and using location to help sort of store the information. That's the key to the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay, and you're not giving away a trade secret there, clearly. No, but I get it.
Yeah, limitedly, yes. But I mean, if that's okay, because I think we're good at training people in these light arts, let's call them, because it is fun, and so that's how we make our bread and butter. Yeah, by being good at communicating about this stuff.
Yeah, and the basics are there for people to go, oh yeah, okay, learn like a child, although you're an adult, so you can bring in some of the good things about being an adult to that, about how you learn, and techniques, and listen to fast spoken Portuguese. That makes complete sense.
Well, people will say it won't make sense yet, will it? Sorry, I'm interrupting you again. People will say that that doesn't make sense. How can I understand Portuguese when it's fast? I don't understand a word of it. How can I learn?
Yes.
That's where I'm not going to give away a secret, but we do have the
fair enough. No, but tell us more about the company then. So the company started after you had your breakthrough with Finnish and lost the bet, but then turned it into a great business.
Yeah, whether I won or lost the bet was a sort of a grey area in the end.
Yes,
actually.
I get it. But you thought at that point, you thought to yourself, well, I've learned something here. I'm going to turn this into a company.
Well, there was quite a few years in the middle there. So I did sort of win the bet. Actually, I did sort of win the bet. They claimed that I said I'd be fluent, but I don't remember that. So you've got to always write things down when you make bets. You've got to write down exactly, pin down the meaning of the bet. But anyway, after that, I was spending time in Berlin, where I now live, and spotted that a million refugees in 2015 were coming to Germany.
Wow.
I just thought, wow, that's just, I mean, just by contrast, they let 30,000 refugees from Syria that year into the UK.
Yeah.
So that, okay, I'm going to come and move here. So then, yeah,
as many Americans are coming to Portugal as well.
Is that right?
No, it's a joke. But
sorry.
but
it's too early in the morning for jokes. I'm terrible.
To look at the papers and some of the Facebook groups, you would think that there were 1 million Californians coming to Lisbon. But we get the scenario. I mean, that is a lot of people who need to learn the language quickly. And that's part of your thought process, is it?
Well, I started getting involved, helping Syrian people to pick up some of the techniques that I was using. They were very effective, and then they liked what we were doing here. So I built this course for a relatively small number of people, but they put it on the television. So I got recognition for the results I was getting, and I thought, okay, well, they all asked, all the Syrian refugees wanted an app. So I thought, okay, maybe I could start a startup and build an app. And actually, the app is not. We have built an app. It's not so central to what we do. It's not like it's mainly an app. It's mainly live classes, live program, but that helps as well.
Yeah.
So it came off the back of helping refugees.
That sounds wonderful, and presumably people still see you in the street and thank you for helping them with their integration into the new culture and learning the language.
Yeah. I don't so often bump into the particular groups of refugees that I was helping them, but we deliberately meet up now and again, and I see how they're getting on, and some of them doing very well. Yeah.
So, do you have a specific Portuguese use case or iteration of this, and how could you help this community?
Well, you'll be pleased to know that so one of the things that's different about Zinguist is it's language neutral. This is all a bit. I try not to make this too complicated. Basically, we train people how to learn a language, but it can be any language.
That's
and then
great.
we provide a native speaker with a particular methodology of helping you practice in that language that's compatible with these techniques of listening and memorizing phrases.
Yes, I get it. Yeah. Sorry, were you going to add something to that?
No, just going to say that. So we have native speakers of Portuguese that we offer as well.
Yeah.
They're trained in the Zinguist method.
But this is so smart, isn't it? Because this is where people struggle and get hung up because they're completely attached to, I can't learn Portuguese, it's difficult. And what I think you're suggesting is a new way of being and thinking around it, a different relationship to the problem at hand, rather than getting too immersed in the nitty-gritty nuts and bolts of the thing that people think they've got a problem with, right?
It's good that we're on radio. It's all about sounds. Language is a bunch of sounds. Immerse yourself in the sounds and not the nitty-gritty, as you say, and you'll be all right.
Yes, so it's language neutral sounds fantastic, and we could apply this way of being or thinking to many things, really, because it appears to be about the thing, doesn't it? When in fact it's not really about the thing; it's about you and how your mind works, or how you could retrain and recondition your mind to work. And that's not just language neutral; that's like life neutral in a way, isn't it? You could bring that to any part of your life.
I like what you're saying. Very nice. Very nice.
Well, you're seeing an expansion for Zinguist all areas of life here. So, on any given day, then, what's going on around the world with Zinguist and how it's helping people? I know that you concentrate a lot on what the people who've been sent to a new country, like maybe an executive in the corporate world needs to be parachuted into Japan, not literally, obviously, needs to crack on. Is that one of your sort of leading?
It's about integrating people into different environments, and expats are quite a significant proportion of our clients.
Yeah,
and a lot of them for business reasons. They may we do sort of all, as well as any language, do all areas of the spectrum. So sometimes it's, I need to learn a language from zero, and it could even be because I fancy doing the wine route there or something like that. People learning Italian or something. But mainly it's us refining the business language or getting people up to scratch so that they can live in a country. Maybe those are the two.
And what would people? I mean, typically our avatar, our demographic, our niche here is somebody who might have retired to Portugal to start a new life. A lot are complaining, as you can see here, about the challenge of learning Portuguese. Let me see if I can find a few of these comments.
Actually, I can't see them. I think you're
I'll
protecting
read them out.
Me.
Protecting you from this audience, yes, indeed. This is good morning, Joao F. Just missed the other Joao. We shall watch him afterwards. I'm very interested in listening to his views, as I'm sure you are. Joao F. is a great German speaker. Grew up learning German in Lisbon, so Joao knows a thing or two about learning languages and speaks English like an English professor. He's definitely got something to share in this conversation. Memorize the Portuguese words. Sometimes I cannot even say it. That's Paul. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the other side of it, is that if you listen to the full speed language with our little secret formula, you get to be able to hear all the syllables and at full speed be able to recognize them.
Oh, you cheeky. Okay, very good. But I like it. The special sauce of Zinguist. Question for David. How on earth did you learn Finnish when even a friend of mine with a 4-year degree and one-to-one tutoring still made mistakes, as did their lecturer? So is that why you chose Finnish, just to set the bar very high?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I had a friend who made documentaries. We made a little film about it, and he said, you should learn either Chinese or Finnish. So obviously it was a bit easier to go to Finland than it was to go to China. So.
Yes. Pete continues, only related to Ostiak and Vogel. It is such a difficult language there. So, okay.
Yeah, it is. Well, the thing is, difficult language is the difficulty is how you learn it, I think.
Yeah.
Not so much because if you approach it from an academic point of view, it slightly relates to the question we've just been asked as well. Sorry if we're not going to fully answer that one, but if you just treat it as sound and patterns in sound and memorize the bit, almost like a musical line or something like that, you're memorizing parts of it, and then you listen to the full speed and you're able to process the language at full speed, which does take time, it takes a bit of practice, and you've got to know kind of how to do it, then it's not one language is not really that much more difficult than another. It will take a bit more adjustment if you've got lots of sounds that you don't have in your own language.
Yes.
It's really about getting the mind to adjust to the new sounds. But there are ways to get that to happen very, very quickly.
It's linguistic mentalism, I think. We watch Portuguese TV. So this is PT Country Bear picking up on that first part of learning it at a high speed and in the natural environment. And eventually you get to pick out words. Very good, PT Country Bear. And then pick out feelings and attitudes. And then all of a sudden you understand some sentences. So
very
I think
nice.
Something
yeah,
there. Yeah,
that's actually that's a good insight. Yeah.
Okay, but although Philomena, our resident language teacher, Philomena Pascual, says, that's the way to do it, well done. But, says PT Country Bear, after 3 years, we're still not fluent by any means.
Well, that's okay. It's about, I mean, I think you shouldn't put pressure on yourself to conform to any particular time frame. But if you, there are ways to do it fast, and you've got part of the answer there, part of the answer. So you've got to, there are a few other things you're going to have to get right in order to harness that good listening that you've been doing.
All right, Philomena, any questions for David? Because you are such a help to us when it comes to learning Portuguese. I see a wonderful hybrid here. But after 3 years, yes, still not fluent by any means. And Carl, a while back, I did a memorize by association trick at a meetup. That came immediately to mind. I didn't realize you were being a Greek, an ancient Athenian with what you were doing there, T-Duck. But that's clearly part of it. And yes, bringing that together, if you teach us how to do that, T-Duck, that's going to help people, isn't it, with memorizing certain phrases and so on, giving them more confidence, as I think David's talking about here. Joao F. to Pete, what comments? It's because of such statements that I have to stop drinking in the morning. Well, if we'd help with that this morning, that's a victory for us, helping a Portuguese man stopping drinking first thing in the morning. If you say you can't, you will always be right. Would you agree with that? Is that part of the sort of positive mental attitude that's required here as well, David?
Yeah, I mean, confidence is the biggest factor in whether or not you're going to just put it out there and go and speak. Yes. And I think if you tie yourself up in thinking too much just before you speak, like calculating the grammar and things like that, that can knock your confidence.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's an important point.
And I liked what you said as well about not putting too much pressure on yourself to conform to a certain standard. It must be important to enjoy what you're doing here, right? Because that will embed it as a pleasant. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. When people say, "What's this?" When they say I can't do this, whereas I say there are people more stupid than me that can do this. That's another way of looking at it. So no reason for me not to. Nice frame on that, Matty.
Yeah, that's definitely not how I train my team to phrase things.
I'm glad to hear that, David. I may have missed this. Does Zinguist teach European Portuguese? Well, I think how you answer that question, if I may say so, David, is that you're language neutral. It's about how to learn a language rather than learn any specific language. Right?
Well, no, sorry, it's both. We do offer.
Okay.
We do offer any language and every language that someone says to us. So if you said to, so we already actually have some European Portuguese native speakers trained up and ready. Okay. But if you said to me, oh, I'd rather learn Swahili or whatever, we could go out to our network, find somebody within about a week, train them up in that aspect of it, because they don't coach you in the techniques. We in the core team coach you in the techniques in English.
Okay.
And then on top of that, you get time with a native speaker to practice. That native speaker takes us about 10 days to train them. So by that time, and in the first week, you don't practice with your native speaker yet because you're learning some of the basics of the techniques. So yeah, we can teach any language straight away, basically. So, yeah.
Fascinating. Okay, memorizing is easy, says Tita. The hardest part for me is learning pronunciation. Without a live teacher, it's very difficult. And as you said, you deal with that by doing the technique and then doing the practice as well.
I would argue that it's actually harder to learn from a live teacher than it is to learn on your own, because you're always under a bit too much pressure. If someone's correcting you, it's not necessarily very much fun, and you're like, oh, I don't know.
Like
I
being at
personally
school.
don't like it. I can't pronounce things fast. When someone's correcting me, I sort of feel like, oh God, I can't quite get this right. And I think that's because it's a two-stage process. You've got to really hear it very clearly and separate out, because even a syllable is made up of lots of different sounds. You know, it's like sound, almost like a sound wave that with different parts to it. Maybe I'm overcomplicating it, but the simple bit is that in my view, if you know how to listen and you memorize the phrases, then the pronunciation is no problem at all.
Very interesting. I mean, you are turning things on their head a little bit here, aren't you? You're challenging the common wisdom on these matters, and we love anyone who does that first thing in the morning. So I assume Zinguist is not a free service. What the price card for it? No,
I wish it were a free service.
You're not,
I actually did try to make it a free service to start with before I started the startup by getting the German government to try to fund the development of it for refugees. And of course, we still do give away some pods of refugees. For example, we helped a couple of Ukrainian people integrate. But no, it's obviously it's a business service, but also like a sort of premium personal service. The prices, okay, off the top of my head, if the business course is 366 euros a month, and the personal program, so the sort of social program, for most purposes is 233 euros a month.
Okay, and how quickly would you imagine a person would get to where they want to get to using this approach? Because
if you do everything that we, sorry,
you're not talking about like years and years of
no.
But the whole point is fast, right?
No, if you do the 2 times 20 minutes a day of exercises, the listening and the memorizing that we get you to do, and you do it every day, you can go from 0 to being able to speak Portuguese for 60 minutes in only 8 weeks. But you do actually have to pay for 3 months, as it happens, because 3 months is the minimum payment.
Yes, yeah, and that's a good investment, isn't it? And that makes people serious about what they're doing as well, doesn't it? An investment in their learning what to do.
I hear so many things. Some businesses tell me, it's very inexpensive. Some people kind of, have to, make sure that they've got enough income coming in that month to make it work. But it's definitely the least expensive program compared to the results by far.
Yeah, sure. And that's what the formula that I think that needs to be assessed and analyzed here. It's the quick results, isn't it? And I'm sure many of us here are intrigued by this incredible reframe on learning languages that that the Zinguist is all about, which can be found at Zinguist. Let me just go so that people can find you. Zinguist.com, Zinguist, or if you're American, Zing. UIST, and if you're Finnish, I've no idea how to say that. David probably does. David, it's been fascinating talking to you. I hope you'll come back sometime. Have a great time in Germany, and it's just lovely to hear about the whole story as well. You're looking. This came from wanting to help people and solve and ease a serious challenge for people in the world.
Yep, I believe in integration, no matter what kind of integration it is. It's a rich world if we can be multicultural and multilingual.
Well said, sir. And for that, you get some of this. Thank you very much for being here. Really, really nice to meet you. Muito prazer, as we say in Portugal.
Muito prazer.
Ciao, hello. Yes, your pronunciation even better than mine, as you would expect from David from Zinguist. Take care, mate. Bye for now. Have a great day in
Thank you.
Berlin.
Cheers. Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye. There he goes. More of this. That was absolutely fascinating. Would David like a free holiday in the Algarve for a month, provided he gets me fluent in that?